Welcome to day 6 of 30 days of eating for me and my dog after 5 years on a carnivore diet. If you're new to this channel, Apex is all about humans and dogs and the foods that bonded us, which of course is meat. And if you're new to this series, I do recommend starting from day 1 because episode 1 really goes in depth about what this series is about. And I will put a link in the description below where you can access that first video. But if you are new, just to give you a quick rundown of what this series is about, I'm documenting and tracking everything we consume for 30 days. And I'll also go over and talk about the cost for both my meals and my dog's meals and provide some information on how carnivore doesn't really have to be expensive and it can actually be done pretty affordably. For the first week or two, I'm basically just listening to my natural intuition and I'm just pulling out and eating whatever sounds good. Now at the end of each video, I break down the nutritional information for each day. So as we go along with this series, I'm going to take that information and we're going to see if we can optimize the diet to create a way of eating that is very balanced and nutritionally complete using only carnivore foods. So if this is something that resonates with you, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of the future videos in this series. So for breakfast, I'm keeping it very simple again. I'm going to fire up the grill and I'm going to have some ground beef from a local butcher shop. And I have 18 ounces of 75/25, which I get for $2.99 a pound from a local butcher shop. Now I also ran out of bone broth yesterday for my dog, so I've got some bones that I pulled out of the freezer. I'm gonna make some bone broth this morning because I love adding that to her food. It really helps with her joints and stuff like that. So I'm gonna get that going, get the grill fired up, cook this burger. I'm not working out today, it's my off day, it's the weekend. All right, bone broth is cooking. Very simple recipe, water, bones, and I did add 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar today, just to help with the extraction of the nutrients and the breakdown of the collagen on these bones. But I'll let this go for about probably 18 to 20 hours. Alright, meal 1, day 6, about to be in the books. I've got my pink Himalayan salt, got my 18 ounces of ground beef. I'll log this as 80/20 because some fat cooked off, and I got 2.5 tablespoons of Irish butter. Alright, supper for the pupper, she's chomping at the bit. Alright, we have 16 ounces of chicken leg quarters. There's a big chicken back on top for some raw meaty bones. I got 3 ounces of chicken feet, 5 ounces of chicken gizzards and chicken hearts, 4 ounces of ground beef. Very simple meal tonight, no organs because she does not tolerate organs very well when I feed them all the time. I'm going to add a 1/4 teaspoon of colostrum and a 1/4 teaspoon of eggshell powder for a little extra calcium. So the total weight for this meal is 28 ounces. The chicken leg quarters I get for $1.79 a pound from a local butcher shop. The chicken feet I get for $2.24 a pound. The chicken gizzards and hearts I get for $1.25 a pound. And the ground beef I get for $2.99 a pound from my local butcher shop. So the total cost for all this food comes out to be $3.37. And that brings the total cost per pound to $1.93. So again, if anybody says carnivore is not affordable and it can't be done cheaply, it is not a fact. Now I also have some bone broth going here, so I'm going to add some of this as well. As always, there'll be a link in the description where you can download my free bone tip sheet, and that tip sheet also includes information on how I structure and proportion my dog's meals. Dinner time for me, so I am 100% switching it up tonight. I used to not eat poultry at all. When I got really sick, I actually developed an intolerance to poultry, but now that I'm healed, I have actually started experimenting with chicken, and I found that I can actually tolerate chicken very well now, and I'm a big fan of chicken, so I'm going to have chicken from a local butcher shop tonight. Now I've got 28 ounces of chicken leg quarters right here that I'm going to cook on the grill, of course, because that's my favorite way to cook food. I have 5 ounces of chicken gizzards right here that I'm going to fry in a cast iron skillet, and this is just to show you what the cost is going to run. This is the only 2 things really I'm having tonight. But so my chicken gizzards, you can see right here, I got these particular chicken gizzards for $1.59 a pound. And then this particular batch of chicken leg quarters I got again from my local butcher shop on May the 23rd, and that was 89 cents a pound for those chicken leg quarters. So this is what I'm gonna have. I'm gonna tally that up and see how much that is going to cost total, and then we'll go over that as well as the nutritional breakdown as soon as I get done making and eating this food. So you can really see how red this meat is compared to what you normally get in the grocery store, and I think that's from it being pasture raised. The chickens actually eat bugs, and they're not just eating grain all the time, so it's a much higher quality meat. And these chicken leg quarters are actually a lot smaller also compared to the stuff that you get in the grocery store. So it's probably not those massive selectively bred birds that you see in industrial ag. So I would assume that the nutrient density in these is going to be much higher quality than the stuff you would get in the grocery store. So I decided to cook my gizzards in about 2 tablespoons of beef fat, so these should turn out really, really good. Alright, this winter chicken dinner is done. Finally, it took quite a bit longer than I expected because my propane tank ran out like the first 2 or 3 minutes of cooking this chicken, so I had to go get another propane tank out of the garage, get it swapped out and all that good stuff. But finally, I'm sitting down to eat. So before I eat, let's discuss cost. Alright, so breakfast this morning, breakfast ended up running me $3.42 for the 18 ounces of ground beef I had, plus 54 cents for the butter. It was a very basic, very simple breakfast this morning. That cost me $3.96 total for breakfast. Shawnee's food, already went over the cost for that. That was $3.37, aka $1.93 a pound. And then dinner, all right, so I've got 28 ounces of chicken leg quarters. That's $1.56 because I got these for 89 cents a pound from a local butcher shop. The chicken gizzards were 5 ounces at $1.59 a pound, which is 50 cents for those. So the butter, this is a little different than the butter I have been eating. This is $3.45 for the whole block. So that is 2.5 tablespoons of butter, and that comes out to be 54 cents. I have another 1 ounce of Tillamook cream cheese, and that was $3 for a block, so that came out to be 38 cents for that. So the grand total for this entire meal is $2.98. And then combined with breakfast and combined with Shawnee's food, the total for the day is $10.31. So I think today is the first day I broke $10 in the 6 days I've been doing this so far. So again, feed myself, feed my dog for around 10 bucks a day is not bad. Carnivore does not have to be expensive, and this is a prime example of that. So with that said, I'm gonna get my hands dirty. I'm gonna dig into this chicken, and then right after that, we'll go over the nutritional data. And I am very curious to see how that's going to stack up. Yeah, that was a lot of food, but that was absolutely phenomenal. That was some really good chicken. I love chicken cooked on the grill, and that's some really nice variety after eating red meat all the time. And I'm really enjoying being able to add in chicken at least once a week. It makes me feel pretty good too, which is kind of surprising considering how I reacted to it when I was sick and stuff. To have come that far and to be able to eat it like I do now, it's pretty awesome. But let's get into the nutritional breakdown, because this is going to be fairly interesting to see how this compares to the previous days and the days of eating only red meat. So, by the way, I did pull out the bones and I weighed those, and I took 3 ounces off of the data that I inputted for the chicken. So I ended up with 25 ounces of chicken. And one thing to note too about these apps, I'm using Chronometer. And when I was looking up chicken leg quarters in there, pretty much every single chicken leg quarter entry had incomplete data. So you'll scroll down through there and it will say like no data, or it will be 0% where you know there should be a percentage in there. So you have to pay attention to that if you're going to use these apps to track your nutrition. But I was able to find a chicken back with the skin on, which is basically what that is. A chicken leg quarter is essentially a chicken back with a drumstick on there. And I used that as the log because the chicken back was the only one that had complete nutritional information. So when I show this on the screen, that's what you're going to see. So total calories for the day was 4,407 calories. Quite a bit. It was a lot more than I expected actually. So after walking around and stuff today, and I didn't exercise today, I was still at a surplus of 1,464 calories. So again, way over my recommended calories. And like I mentioned in some of my other videos, technically in a calorie surplus of like 500 calories or more, you should be gaining weight, you should be gaining fat. I weighed myself again this morning, I was still like 169. So far I've been between 168 and 170 this whole time, eating almost 1,000 calorie surplus basically every single day. And in today's case, almost 1,500 calorie surplus. But moving on, the protein to fat ratio, fat to protein ratio. So today's the first day I haven't been at a 70-30. I'm actually at 65-35. And that's probably because the chicken leg quarters were a little more lean than the beef fat trimmings and all that stuff I've been eating. So that makes total sense. And I didn't consume a ton of butter today, but still pretty close, 65-35, still right in that range. I had 361 grams of protein today, so yes, the protein is very high. And fat was 318 grams. So all that chicken definitely skewed the protein on the higher side. So moving on down the list, vitamin C, 0 today again. Based off what we've been seeing so far, I don't expect that to go up much until I start adding organs and stuff in there. And like I've mentioned before, red meat does have trace amounts of vitamin C in there. And as I've mentioned before in some of the previous days, when you're not consuming carbohydrates and sugars and things like that, your requirement for vitamin C actually goes down quite a bit. Iron, 3 times my RDA. B12, 6, almost 7 times my RDA. Calcium, 37%. Not too bad on calcium. That could always be bumped up very easily by adding more dairy, eggshell powder, bone-in fish, things like that. Folate, 23%. That one's pretty low again. That one doesn't seem to want to go up unless I add things like organs in there. And eggs would probably be something else that would allow that to go up. Vitamin A, 148%, so I'm good there. Potassium, 95%. That's very, very close to the RDA. All right, B vitamins, 59% on B1. That's the one that's been kind of consistently low. I think yesterday actually was the only time that was at max value when I ate pork. So that's kind of interesting. All the other B vitamins are at or well above the RDA. Vitamin D, 7%. I expected that to be pretty low because I didn't really eat any vitamin D rich foods. But if I wanted that to come up, I could add things like fatty fish, fish oils, dairy, eggs, all that would make it come up. As I say in all my videos, I'm not concerned with that because I am out in the sun almost every single day and I get plenty of vitamin D on my skin, which is the best way to absorb it. Vitamin E is still pretty low, 31%. So I'd kind of assumed that vitamin E would come up some with poultry, and it did come up a little bit because I think it was in like the 20% if I remember right, but it's still kind of on the low side. But as we saw yesterday, I think if I added like seafood and stuff to my diet and just included that regularly, I wouldn't have a problem with vitamin E. Vitamin K, that actually came up quite a bit actually. So this is another thing I kind of assumed would come up after adding poultry, and it's at 41%. So poultry seems to be the key to vitamin K. Copper, iron, I'm good there. Magnesium, 67%. That's a little higher than I thought it would be. So that's actually pretty awesome to be able to get that much magnesium out of just animal products, because technically speaking, animal products don't really have that much magnesium compared to most plant foods. But again, the magnesium in plant foods is not very bioavailable because it's bound up by the plant toxins and plant chemicals. So the magnesium I am getting is going to be way more bioavailable. And I'm also not concerned with this because, as you know, I do put magnesium on my skin as soon as I crawl out of bed every single morning. So I'm totally good there. Manganese, 13%. This one's been consistently low. And like I say in pretty much every video, I don't think I'm going to see this one budge until I add in oysters or mussels or some type of, other seafood, because it's been pretty chronically low this whole time. Phosphorus, potassium, talked about that one. Phosphorus is good. Selenium, 5 times, almost 6 times my RDA. Sodium, I'm good with. Zinc, 4, almost 5 times my RDA. Okay, fats. This is something I'm kind of curious to see. All right, so cholesterol is going to be high, of course. I'm fine with that. Saturated fat's high. Here's where it gets interesting, okay? So the omega-3 to omega-6 ratio is now very much skewed to the side of omega-6. So omega-6 is the first time it's been maxed out, and not only is it maxed out, it's at 2 times my RDA, while omega-3 is only at 1.5 times my RDA. So my omega-3 to omega-6 ratio now is actually higher on the omega-6 side, which is probably not necessarily a good thing if I was to do that all the time, because omega-3 is much more beneficial for brain function, for inflammation, and just for your overall well-being versus omega-6. Omega-6 tends to be more pro-inflammatory. Now with that said, I'm still getting a lot of omega-3, which is a good thing, but for it to be skewed higher on the omega-6 side is probably not necessarily a good thing consistently or long-term. Moving on to proteins. So all my proteins, all my essential amino acids are well above my RDA. They're all maxed out. They're all multiple times my RDA. So I'm good there. And that's to be expected because meat is a complete source of protein. I mean, overall, that's actually pretty interesting. It's really interesting to see the differences that the chicken made, especially in the fat content and the fat ratios. And it's pretty interesting to see how the vitamins and stuff compared. But in the coming weeks, I'm definitely going to be starting to mix and match, and I'm going to really fine tune this diet and see if we can meet the RDA on every single nutrient, because I feel like if we can do that, that's going to be an ideal scenario, and it's going to give us, without a doubt, everything that we need to thrive and to function optimally. But that's going to wrap it up for me. If you haven't done so already, be sure to like, subscribe, join the Apex tribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of the future videos in this series. And I'll see you on day 7. All right, peace out.